Three scientists were looking for prehistoric rocks and diamonds deep in the African desert. One day their radar picked up a feature that looked like a volcanic pipe. They were so intrigued that they headed straight to the location. There, they found a large pile of dirt. They believed it may contain something significant, so they cracked it open. But instead of diamonds, something terrifying materialized, and the three geologists quickly died. The desert had already suffered its first casualties before the drama truly began. After that, the action shifts to a man named Jack. He is an expert in both technology and geology. In the case of a natural disaster, Jack had built his own portable radar that could detect body heat and even send out alerts. One day, he received terrible news from his supervisor. Three geologists had disappeared in Africa and could not be located. Jack was tasked with investigating it. Without asking many questions, he prepared the next morning, packed his belongings, and boarded a long flight. After a long and taxing journey, Jack arrived at the African desert. A man named Carol welcomed him and led him to a study camp. It was there that Jack met Yen, their team leader, Carol, Mucky, Kurt, Titus, and Magda. Yen said he would not be taking part in the excursion since he had to stay behind and manage the camp. The expedition's surviving members gathered food, fuel, and weapons before setting out to locate the missing geologists. It took them hours to locate the geologist's vehicle, but the men themselves were nowhere to be seen. What they did find was horrifying. 3 lifeless skeletons, as if their bodies had been reduced to bones in a matter of hours. Nothing normal could do such a thing. Nearby, they also found a strange statue that looked like the head of an ant. Everyone was shocked, but most thought that some unknown species was to fault. As night fell, the weary squad went to bed. But Jack couldn't fall asleep. He climbed a nearby sand dune to pass the time. Soon after, Mucky joined him, saying that he was also experiencing problems going asleep. Jack began to feel a growing connection with him after a light-hearted conversation, albeit he kept it to himself. After a while, Mucky returned to sleep, leaving Jack alone. Something large was approaching quickly, and his radar suddenly started buzzing. Jack looked into the darkness and noticed a strange shadow moving toward him. He immediately alerted the others. But when everyone arrived, nothing was there. The object had vanished, and the skeletons of the geologists were no longer visible. Carol immediately accused Jack of stealing them, despite his denials. At that moment, the radar went off once more, indicating nearby movement. Carol suggested that they chase it in the car, but Magda objected, stating that it would be too dangerous in the dark. They decided to wait until daybreak. At dawn, a thick fog engulfed them. From it came a dark, eerie figure that looked like a human. Kurt fired at it, and the figure instantly disappeared. When they looked into the area, the missing skeletons had returned. The mystery just became more intricate. Then Titus revealed a story he had been holding to himself for many years. His community had a custom concerning a colony of flesh-eating ants known as Isalu. Instead of hunting alone, these ants worked together to remove the meat from their target and discard the bones. At the center of the colony stood a queen, the real intelligence in control. Titus recalled seeing a little boy in the same horrible way reduced to bones. Now, he was positive that this was the same thing. The others recorded the fear in Titus's eyes as superstition or madness. Soon after, their car suddenly stopped working. The engine failed, and the radio and phone signals disappeared. They were completely shut off in the middle of the desert. They had no choice but to take turns keeping vigil at night and waiting for a passing gasoline-powered vehicle. Titus kept watch while Kurt slept that night. Suddenly, Titus sensed something nearby. When he opened Kurt's sleeping bag, he froze. Kurt was being eaten from the inside out, but he was still alive. Titus called out for help, but it was too late. The creature attacked him as well, crushing his hand in the process. The others rushed in and dragged Titus away. Carol made an unsuccessful attempt to attack the swarm. A single, unstoppable force propelled the ants. Jack decided on the spur of the moment and splashed the automobile with gasoline, causing it to briefly back off. But it wasn't gone for very long. Soon after, it returned, and this time, Jack and Carol witnessed something horrible. The ants were using human bones to form a humanoid shape. It was becoming much more dangerous. There was no doubt now that Titus's story was accurate. Bullets wouldn't work. They needed a different approach. Maybe in anticipation, the object disappeared again. Titus's health declined throughout this time, making it impossible for him to travel. They decided that Magda would stay with Titus while Jack, Carol, and Mucky would go back to camp to bring another automobile. A powerful sandstorm prompted them to seek shelter the next morning. When the storm cleared, they found they had ran out of gasoline and that their radar had been wrecked. That night, the creature reappeared, taking on Magda's form. They immediately comprehended what had occurred. The colony now contained the bones of Titus and Magda, who had died. When they ran out of fuel, the gang barely made it through another assault. The next morning, they followed a feeble radio signal and found the geologist's old automobile. They used the radio to connect with the camp. Additionally, they discovered a tunnel leading to a massive, now abandoned ant nest close by. Jack realized what had happened. The geologists broke that mound, destroying Isola's first home. Since then, the beast has been searching for a new nest and seeking revenge. Soon after, a car arrived from the camp, but Yen would not listen and charged them with murder. He began returning Jack after handcuffing him. Jack and Carol were able to escape along the way, but Yen was detained. They chose not to return just yet, taking a chance. They had to destroy Isola's new nest before more lives were lost. They pursued it to a nearby mine by following it into the shadows. The creature assaulted Carol inside, breaking his leg. Jack distracted the creature, causing it to fall into a pit. For a moment, it seemed to be over, but then it climbed back out, grabbed Carol, and pulled him down. When Carol realized the risk, she made a sacrifice. Carrying explosive liquid, he gave his friends one last look before jumping into the hole with the creature. Carol was killed in a massive explosion that followed, but the others were unharmed. While trying to escape, Jack and Mucky encountered the Ant Queen, the true source of everything. Mucky shouted that if the queen was killed, everything would cease. Jack attacked her with a knife and killed her. The colony immediately began to disintegrate. The ants died one by one. It was finally over. But the mine was collapsing due to the blast. Rocks dropped all around them, and they just managed to escape. Outside, they found Yen's body. He had also died. After the long nightmare, only Jack and Mucky remained alive. In the final moments, they both stood waiting for a cab. Jack decided to stay and continue working at the desert camp. However, Mucky chose to start over in another place. Before leaving, they kissed each other and said a solemn goodbye. Words were not necessary. When the cab arrived, Mucky left. Jack stood by himself and stared out at the endless desert. After everything had been lost, had vanished into silence, life was all that remained.